Speaking of national championship, the NCAA national championship for men's basketball a few months away, but ACC play is heating up. And to break it all down, we do bring in our friend Jamie Shaw from On3 and Rivals. Really excited to have him on once again. Jamie, good morning to you, sir. Hope you're staying warm and staying out of the cold.
Yeah, Billy, we are not warm or out of the cold where I'm at. Pretty eventful weekend, obviously. We had about 4 inches of snow, which isn't terrible, but a couple of those inches were ice, which makes it a little bit tricky moving forward. So hopefully we get above that freezing temperature and it kind of stays there for a couple of days.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Thaw out a little bit.
Yeah.
ACC basketball heating up, of course, and a lot of programs had to deal with some shifting game times. But the action this weekend, pretty good stuff for those of you locked in your house and seeing some ACC basketball. Let's start with probably the biggest game of the weekend, UNC UVA. UNC bounces back, gets a win at Virginia, 85-80. For the Tar Heels, it was getting precarious there. We were starting to watch, see if they were kind of on fraud watch after that West Coast trip. But they bounced back nicely now, back to 4-3 in league play and 16-4 overall with that win over UVA.
Yeah, and it was kind of a tale of two halves for UNC too, because this is a big year coming in for Hubert Davis and for the Tar Heels and everything. And you saw them, as you said, drop a couple of them that were questionable coming into this game, and then the first half here, they're just getting punched in the mouth. You saw the 26 rebounds coming from Virginia. Virginia shot over 40% from three in that first half, and North Carolina fought and clawed to get, I think it was within 9 at halftime, but they were just getting out physicaled by this UVA team in the first half, and it was very interesting to kind of watch and see the adjustments that were made after halftime.
And when I look at UNC and getting that win, does it feel as big as it looks in a sense, or is Virginia still a team that maybe just kind of started league play hot and they're kind of I don't know, landing a little bit more around where they're at, just a step below that top tier of the league, or is this UNC kind of that West Coast trip kind of a revitalization of that roster in a sense?
No, for sure. This is a huge win for UNC. Anytime you're able to go onto the road, down almost double digits at halftime against a ranked team, I don't think Virginia had lost at home this whole season. This is a very good win, especially the manner that they did it. They came out in the second half and just punched right back. They shot 63% from the field. Jaron Stevenson goes for 17. You had freshman Derek Dixon, who had a fantastic game taking care of the ball. I think after halftime, UNC only had one turnover while shooting over 60% from the field. And then you had your stars, Caleb Wilson and Seth Trimble kind of closed the game out for them. With what they had going on I don't want to say it's a must-win situation, but in a situation where they needed a win to come through and they needed a positive mojo to happen, going into Virginia, a ranked team, taking that win away in the manner that they did, because they took that from Virginia. That was a big win for UNC, and it's going to be interesting to see the momentum that possibly could carry moving forward.
UNC and Virginia both kind of getting, I don't want to say bye weeks because there's no days off in the ACC, but Georgia Tech, Syracuse this week for UNC, and then Syracuse getting Notre Dame, BC this week. So kind of a chill week for them. But Clemson did not have a chill week. They lost to NC State earlier in the week, and then they get a bounce back against Georgia Tech. What was your takeaway from Clemson losing at home to Will Wade coming in there earlier that week and just obviously getting back on track this weekend?
What you're saying from Clemson is that they have relatively narrow margins for error because a lot of what they do is predicated on the defensive side of the basketball, their ability to hold their opponents, I guess, to less points than they score, as opposed to scoring more points. They're holding their opponents to less points than they score. So the margins are a little bit narrow. So if things can go a little bit left for them, as you saw with the NC State and everything, that's how a game could go for this Clemson team. With that being said, Brad Brownell is a heck of a coach. He's the tenured guy within the league right now, and they've seen a lot of success over these last couple of years, especially tournaments and all of that. And this team is a good team. Maybe it doesn't have the star power these past Clemson teams have had, but they figured out something within what they're doing to continue to get wins. And that they've strung off Prior to that NC State game, they strung off quite a few wins in a row. And it's still moving forward. They have a very favorable schedule within this ACC. Looking at who they've played and who they have coming up. So, things fall right for Clemson.
NC State, of course, getting that win. They're now up in the top 30 of the net rankings, 27th. They are 1-4 against quad one opportunities. Same with Clemson, 1-3 in a sense. But they've kind of taken care of business. They had that one bad loss. I think it was to Georgia Tech earlier in league play for NC State. But Will Wade's group kind of a little Jekyll and Hyde in a sense. But in league play now, getting that first quad one win was really important. Sometimes you can't make the NCAA tournament when you have 0 quad one wins. They had to get one under their belt to kind of make it seem like a dream that could be potentially achieved.
For sure. And this NC State team, it's a little bit unique with what they've done so far in this ACC. Right now, they're 4-0 on the road in ACC play and 1-2 at home with what they've done. That's a little bit unique when it comes to, hold and serve at the house and all that type of stuff. But they're a team that lives and dies by the three-point jump shot. In league play, they've shot 40% from three as a team. They're putting up points, and they're figuring out ways to kind of get it done. Quadir Copeland was awesome. Coming up this past week, he's had a really turn going into the last kind of the second half of what they've had, and they're relying on some guys who believe. There's a belief within that locker room. There's a belief within that team to be able to go out and kind of get it done, and they're creating turnovers and making threes. So the aggressiveness on defense coupled with making shots is a recipe to find some success.